Hi, theory students. The lesson today is about basic root progressions. A root progression is the interval from the root of one chord to the root of the next chord. It's expressed as a direction and a number, such as descending fifth or ascending second. While each one could be described in two different ways, for example, if I were looking at the distance from a G chord to a C chord, it could be ascending fourth or descending fifth. For labeling purposes, we'll only choose one of them in order to be consistent. It's not dependent on what the actual bass is doing in a particular situation. For example, the root progression from 5 to 1 is a descending fifth, even if in this case the bass is going up a fourth instead. And it's a descending fifth even if the progression is 5, 6 to 1 and the bass is moving by step. In other words, every type of 5 to 1 is a descending fifth, no matter what the inversions or bass direction. This example should illustrate that. Here's a 5 to 1 progression in the key of B flat. I played it with the bass going down from F to B flat, but even if I played it this way, with the bass going up to the higher B flat, we still call that a descending fifth progression. Likewise, the 5, 6 to 1 is still a descending fifth progression because the root of the 5, 6, F can move by a descending fifth to the root of the 1 chord, B flat. Similarly, even if both chords are in inversion, like the 5, 4, 2 to a 1, 6, it's still a descending fifth progression. So you see that the inversions of the chords are not what counts. It's the root of each chord and what the interval relationship is from one root to the next, no matter how it's worked out in an actual piece. Today we'll be studying the three most important root motions: the descending fifth, which we just looked at, the descending third, the ascending seconds, the other three that are possible, the descending fourth, the ascending third, the descending second, are much less used. The descending fifth is the strongest root motion. It can span the basic parts of the phrase. For example, 1 to 4 can go from tonic to predominant. 2 to 5 can go from predominant to dominant. 5 to 1 can go from dominant to tonic. And these can form chains, 2 to 5 to 1, or even the entire octave, 1, 4, 7, 3, 6, 2, 5, 1, and end up right where I started. Let's look at an example. Here in G major, the entire length of this is demonstrated here. It sounds like this. Note that when I use the entire chain, The phrase works like a long tonic extension to the tonic substitute 6, and then predominant, dominant, tonic. But I could use any length of this chain. 5-1 at the end is our authentic cadence. 2-5-1 is the predominant, dominant tonic. 6-2-5-1 is our tonic substitute, predominant, dominant, and tonic. The other direction, the ascending fifth or descending fourth, is only used when it's paired with a descending fifth. For example, when we have a 1-5-1, then we have an ascending fifth followed immediately by a descending fifth. Or when we go 1-4-1, then the descending fifth comes first and then the ascending fifth. Or 2-6-2 is another example. And that 2 chord would be expected then to go to a 5 and then 1. The next root progression we'll study is the descending third. It can expand areas, as for example, a 1 to a 6 can expand the tonic area. A 4 to a 2 can expand the predominant area. Or it can cross areas. 6 to 4 crosses from tonic to predominant. Therefore, we could also make chains of these, 1, 6, 4, 2, for example. In this particular case, in D minor, we're showing 3 of these descending thirds, from 1 to 6 to 4 in the minor mode, before moving on to 5 and 1. It sounds like this. Note, for example, that having 2 descending thirds in a row ends up going to the same place as having 1 descending fifth. And that's why these are very versatile progressions. The ascending third is much less common, and it typically expands in area, as for example, a 1 to a 3 can expand the tonic area. The last progression we'll be looking at are ascending seconds. These often cross areas. For example, 1 to 2 crosses from tonic to predominant. 4 to 5 crosses from predominant to dominant. 5 to 6 crosses from dominant to the tonic substitute. Since there are no common tones between these chords if they're a step apart, chains are rare if it's in root position, and usually they're only possible in 6-3 position. So for example, 1 to 2 in C major crosses from tonic to predominant. or 4 to 5. From predominant to dominant. Or a chord we haven't studied yet, a 7 chord, which is a diminished chord in first inversion, can be a dominant substitute to tonic. The descending second is less common, and it often substitutes for a more common motion. So the 1 to 7 may substitute for a 1 to 5, 6, or even the inversions 1 to 7, 6, substituting for a 1 to a 5, 6, 4. Or the 6 to 5 can substitute for a 4, 6 to 5. They share the same bass and 2 of the 3 notes in each of the triads. There's a lot more to say about how to connect these chords, but we'll leave that for the next video cast. That's our lesson for today.